We'll be adding and subtracting polynomials today. And so the whole key to adding and subtracting polynomials is that we are going to gather up the like terms, period. Let me get you one. So if I have something like 2u minus 7u, the common terms that we're talking about is the u, okay? So if these match, then they are common terms. So it's just like if you had 2 cookies and you took away 2 cookies, or 7, then we would have -5, and you don't square it, you don't do anything, it's just still cookies. Okay, so add and subtract, we don't do anything with the exponents at all. All right? Let's look at one that does not have common terms. Nine p to the 4th plus 2p to the 6th. Now in this case, yes, you do have p's, but the exponent is part of this. So the p to the 4th does not match the p to the 6th. And so the best you can do here is leave it just like it is. You have to name them separately because they are not common terms. Is that understandable? Do you mind turning that down to about 72? Okay, adding monomials. Let's add
so if
some.
they're not common, you just leave it alone. You don't.
Yes, yes.
Don't work it out.
Don't work it out because every different different type of term has to be listed by itself. So you can only group those together. I'm already going to page 2 of your packet. The adding and subtracting monomials. Sherry, you don't have this one, but I will send it to you in a little bit. Let's do this one. I'm on page 2 of packet 2, number 5. It says 12 p q r to the 6th, and it says to add these. It has a comma on the worksheet, but it says to add the 2. And so we're supposed to add a negative p q r to the 6th plus r. Oh, didn't get it all in there. Plus 2r. And then I'm supposed to add these. Okay, so as we look through here, the coefficient on this one is -12. This is a +2. Coefficients are the big numbers. And I'm going through here to make sure everything has a coefficient, because sometimes we forget here that if it doesn't have a number, it's an invisible one. And that's going to help you with these problems. If there's not a coefficient in front, it's always an invisible one. Okay? So, I don't worry so much about standard form until I get an answer. And then if I'm supposed to do something with it, then, hi, I am so glad to see you.
Well, I got a call. I told her in the office.
1 second, I'm going to pause the recording. Okay, we're adding binomials. Now, what they gave you on the worksheet is this and this. They're called binomials because it has 1, 2 terms. 2 terms is a binomial. 1, 2, we found out yesterday. This is also a binomial. On your worksheet, it looks like this. Don't let it confuse you. The instructions just say, add these binomials. Okay, so that's why I put an add instead of a comma, because I'm supposed to add them all. All right, so now what we're going to do is look for common terms. Now the entire term minus the coefficient have to match. So what I was saying in the beginning is standard form really doesn't matter to me right now. I just want to put common terms together. So what I do is look at the first one, and it is a P, a Q, and an R to the sixth. This is an R. It will not go with this. But here is a P, Q, R to the sixth. All of this has to match. So what you can do is you can box those in, you can use a highlighter, you can underline them, but it kind of helps to isolate these. Now, since these are exactly the same terms, P, Q, R to the sixth, then all you do is use the numbers now. You have a -12 plus a -1 of these. Okay, -12 plus -1 is a -13 of these. I'm simply adding the things that are identical to each other. So I have this. Brandy, you have that look.
Okay.
Are you okay? You have, okay.
And you don't have to add the exponent?
Do not. Now, when we get to, when we get to multiplying, then we deal with the exponents. Okay, but right now we just use that term and add or subtract the coefficients. Okay, and when you're first starting, it's probably a good idea to say, okay, I took care of these. Then look at the next one that's in line, and these are simply R's or R to the first, okay? So you look all the way through. Yes, that has an R. Yes, that has an R, but they're not identical. So you keep on looking for another R to the first, and right here is an R to the first. They match exactly, see? It doesn't matter about the numbers, because if these match, that means I can put them together, and then I've got a bunch of them, okay? So I have a +2 of these, and I'm going to add one more of these. So now I have 3 of these. And since these are not common terms, this is the answer. Now, the reason we're not coming with an answer here at the bottom like we did when we solved equations, the reason we're not doing that is because it doesn't have an equal sign, so there's nothing to solve. All they're wanting you to do, they'll usually say simplify, probably. Or in this case, it just says add. But they might say simplify. So they have a long thing that looks all ugly, and they said just make it simpler and prettier. That's what simplify means. Okay, just make it simpler and prettier. So are you guys okay with, we're going to do some more examples, but are you okay with this? Okay. Now, I'm going to do another one where we're going to add polynomials, but you will probably see the separate polynomials. Instead of separated by a comma, they will have parentheses. Okay, parentheses is what you see most of the time. Okay, so let's look on page 3, adding polynomials. And I'm going to do the first one, but I'm going to show you, this worksheet packet really likes to use those commas, but I'm going to show you what it usually looks like when you have to do it. Now, the parentheses aren't that big of a deal if you're adding polynomials, but it is essential if you're subtracting them. So I have 10x, about to run out of room, plus 7 minus 5x squared. Okay, So what I want y'all to get used to doing now, whenever you see that you have one polynomial added to another polynomial, no matter how long or short, I want you to take the time to write it again without the parentheses. Now, this isn't going to matter so much with the adds, like I just said, but it's a good practice to get into because when you get to the subtract, makes a major difference. Okay, so here we go. What I'm going to do is take this entire thing and write it again without parentheses. The first one's always easy. 7x squared plus 14 plus 2x. And then this is like a 1. Remember, if there's nothing in front of the parentheses, it's a 1. Okay, so when we get here, we have a number in front of the parentheses, and we're going to use the distributive property. So I have 1 times 10x, so that's 10x. I have a positive 1 times a positive 7, which will be 7. I have a positive 1 times a negative 5x squared, so I have a negative 5x squared. Okay, now it's all written without parentheses. Now all you have to do is go straight through and find all of the common terms. So here's an x squared. We're starting with an x squared, okay? So here's an x squared. We're going to go all the way through and see if we can find any more x squareds. And remember, the sign goes with it. No x squared. There's an x, but not squared, not squared. Oh, here's one. Okay? So since that's an x squared and this is an x squared, I can put those together by adding them. Okay, so I have a negative 7 plus a negative 5. It's the same as subtract, if it helps you to look at that. But a negative 7x squareds, and then I'm going to take away 5 more x squareds. So now when I put those together, I'm going to have a negative 12 x squareds. And sometimes it helps just to mark them out. And then I'm going to go through again. And the next thing I see is a positive 14. Now this doesn't have, this is the x to the 0. Remember, the number that doesn't have a variable is called a constant. And the constants usually go at the end when we do standard form. So here's a plain number, a constant. I'm going to look at those. I underlined the others, so I like to keep them separate. That's an x, so that doesn't work. But here's another constant. So now I'm going to put those together. Okay? So I just add 21. And I'm finished with that one. I look at the next term. And the next term is simply an x, just an x to the first power. And I look through, and sure enough, there is another one right here. So now I have 2 of these and 10 of these. So I'm going to add them together. When I mark those out, I notice that there's no more terms, and so I'm fine. Now, what you'll want to do is be sure and double check all the way through and make sure there's no common terms. I have a squared, a constant, and to the first power, right? So this is the answer. Now, this is not in standard form. Can you help me put it in standard form?
So it would be the negative 12x squared.
You're exactly right. Negative 12x squared
12x
plus 12x plus 21. Good job, Sandra. Okay. Here is standard form, because we found out yesterday that when we take something like this and put it in standard form, we put it in order of the exponents. And so the largest exponent goes first, the next largest, because that's a 1. And then actually what's happening here is an x to the 0, okay? We don't write it, but here is 2, 1, 0. That makes it standard form. So let's do a little bit more reviewing from yesterday. Tell me what the degree of this polynomial is. The degree.
2.
It is. Good job. It is 2 because the largest exponent is 2. That's how we find out the degree of the entire polynomial. Okay, good, Sherry. And then, do y'all remember the name of the polynomial if its degree is 2? Very nice. I hope I'm not, yeah. Quadratic. Okay, and let's tell me how many terms I have. I have 3 terms. This is a term, this is a term, and this is a term. They're separated by pluses and minuses. So I have 3 terms. And do y'all remember what that's called? Trinomial. Oh my gosh, I love this class. Trinomial. Tri has 3 terms. Tell me what the leading coefficient is.
12.
Negative 12. And I'll write this for you all. Oh. Sorry about the writing. Leading coefficient. All of these are coefficients. This one, this positive 12, and this negative 12. All of those are coefficients. But the leading coefficient is the front one when we put it in standard form. So negative 12 would be our leading coefficient here. Are we okay with that? You all handled yesterday's assignment well. You didn't even hesitate. Yes. Okay. Are you guys okay enough with the plus? Let's just hit the minus and find out what the deal is. All right, let's do that. What about y'all remotely? Sherry?
I'm hanging in here, Miss Deborah.
You're hanging in?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It might be a lot easier once I get my worksheets and do them from yesterday.
It will. It will.
But I'm understanding it, so I think I'm gonna be okay.
The other day, my son came in to bring me the keys. And then you started talking on the computer. First of all, you freaked him out. And then because he didn't know anybody was on the computer. And then yesterday we went to breakfast before I came to class. And he said, that girl on the computer was a hoot. He just thought you were wonderful. Are you listening to me?
Yes, I am.
And it was so funny. He goes, that girl on the computer when I came to your room. And I said, there wasn't anybody on the computer. They were all in class working. He said, no, the one on the computer. I said, Nicholas, none of them had computers. They were working. And he said, Mom, the one on the computer. I said, was there somebody sitting on a computer? I really had, it was just like, he said, the one talking on the computer. Oh. Yep. Sherry. Okay, minus. I am on page 5 of the worksheet. Page 5, we're going to start to subtract polynomials. Negative 7b minus negative a b to 5th c. Notice that it's in parentheses, and most of them that you see will be in parentheses, okay? If they're not, you need to put the separate ones in parentheses, especially with the minus. Now, again, here's the key to everything. If there's not a number in front, it's an invisible one. If there's not a number in front of a parentheses, it's an invisible one. This will help you tremendously. So now I'm going to write this entire thing without parentheses. So I take 1 times what's in here, and of course that's negative 7b. And then I come to this part, and I'm going to take a negative 1. This is where the subtract comes in. I'm going to take a negative 1 times everything in the parentheses. If this was a longer one, everything. So a negative times a negative will make this a positive. A, b to the 5th, c. And the last thing you do here is you look at the two terms. There's just two terms here. Here's a b to the 1st, and here's an a, b to the 5th, c. They're not common terms. This is one, but they're not common terms, right? So we're done. This is it. Okay, so the only thing that you need to remember very, very carefully about minus is that it's like a negative 1 times everything in the following parentheses. If this parentheses went clear out to here, you would still go negative 1 times that, negative 1 times that, negative 1 times that, negative 1 times that, until you get to the closed parentheses. Do you see? Let's do another one. Let's do one that's longer. Any questions on this one?
So we say negative 1 times that 5 too, right?
No. That's an
We just
exponent.
stick him in there.
That's
we
an
just-
exponent.
Okay, so we just bring him down.
Yes.
Okay.
This
Okay.
thing, okay, this is the one here, but this stuff right here is what we're looking for the common terms.
Okay.
And so that's just like a name of something. It's like a chocolate pie. This is it. That's its name. Okay, Sherry?
Okay.
Okay. So no, we don't do anything when we're adding and subtracting. We don't do anything with the exponents except just try to match them. Let me find a longer one. This one on page 5, they're all monomials, which means you're just going to add one piece to one piece. Let's do binomials, which is on page 6. And let's look at the first one. Page 6 looks like this. I'm sorry, Shanika, does it hurt? Okay. Now, as you're just learning how to do this, I would go through and put all the invisible ones in. Like out in front, if there's not a number, it's a 1. If there's not an exponent, it's an invisible 1. If there's not a number in front of here, it's an invisible 1. And if there's not an exponent here, invisible 1. So that might help you when you work these, when you're starting. So now I have to write this entire thing again, and this is very important to write it without parentheses, which means I'm going to use the distributive property here. And you'll find out it's the same thing. So I have b plus 7b cubed. And I'm at the end of the parentheses, so that's all the multiplying I do for that one. Then I come over here, I have another set of parentheses that has a negative 1. Minuses and negatives act the same way, okay? So I have a negative 1 times 6. Negative times a positive is a negative 6b cubed. And a -1 times a +2 is a minus 2b. Now we've written the entire problem without parentheses, and all we have left to do now is simply put our common terms together. So if I look here, there's one of those, and this is the plain old B, okay? So I'm going to see if there's any other plain old B's. So that's b cubed, no, b cubed. Here's a plain one. Remember to use the sign with it, a -2. So now I have one of these minus two of them. What's 1 minus 2? -1. So I have a -1b because I put these together, and I'm finished with that. Then I look for the next term. I have a +7. Now I'm going to get all the b cubes together. So here's a 7. And here's a -6b cubed. 7 of these minus 6 of these gives me 1 of these. And is it positive or negative here? Yeah. You look at the larger number. See, this is bigger. Okay. If I had $7 and somebody had -6, I have more money. Okay, so plus 1b cubed. And understand that on the answer sheet, it's not going to have your invisible ones. It'll be -b plus b cubed. Now that's not in standard form, and just flip over. Are they putting it in standard form? Or are they just wanting you to make sure? I wrote it down wrong, didn't I? Okay, for this problem, this is correct. And yes, they're putting it in standard form. After you get the answer, they're putting it in standard form. The reason this one is wrong is because I should have written down a squared right here. Squared. Which changes the whole thing because I can't add this and this together now, can I? So let me fix this. My b's are still okay, right? I have 1 minus 2, it's a -1b. And then I look for any other b cubes. In this case, when I wrote it correctly, there are no other b cubes. So I write that one down by itself because there's nothing else that matches it. And then I don't have any other squareds that match, so I have to write that separately also. Of course, when you write this in standard form, you're going to look for the largest exponent first, 7b cubed. Then the next largest, which would be here, minus 6b squared. And then our last one, minus b, would be in standard form. Understand that this is the correct answer. It's fine, but we put everything in standard form. Just like when we have fractions, we just know to simplify fractions. Well, when we are doing polynomials, we just know, put them in standard form. It's going to make everything easier for you. So minus, how are we doing? Understand? Yeah, there's just that one change, but always remember that you need to write the whole thing without parentheses, which means use that distributive property in both of them.
So with the distributive property, all you have to do is multiply like the 1 times the b, the 1 times the.
Absolutely, yes. You are correct. Sherry, how are you doing?
Well, I'm trying, Miss Deborah.
When you get your stuff, right?
Yes.
All right, let's go on to page 7 because some of these have 2 in one of the parentheses, and some of them have 1. Some of them don't have parentheses. Let's see if it's any different. On the last, on page 6, on page 7. Okay, we'll do number 9. Yeah, that's a biggie, isn't it? Okay, I'm on page 7. And Sandra asked for number 9, because it looks like it has a bunch of stuff in it. Negative. You guys watch my exponents. Make sure I write it down correctly. Yes. P cubed, Q to the 4th, R to the 6th, minus negative 2, P cubed, Q. Okay. They want us to subtract these polynomials. So the first thing we need to do is we see the parentheses without a number in front. So if you will take care of that, that will help boost your memory on what to do. All right. So here we go. There is also a coefficient in front of our terms. So here's another invisible. If there's not a number there, there's an invisible one. Look here. There's not a coefficient here. So it's 1. Okay. So now we've got all our invisible ones in. Now let's go. We have this whole set of parentheses that needs to be taken times 1. So I have a negative, I'll do 1 right now. Negative 1, P cubed, Q cubed, plus 1, P cubed, Q to the 4th, R to the 6th, and I'm at the end of the parentheses, so I don't multiply anything else times 1. Now I'm at the second set of parentheses, and I see a negative 1 times all of this parentheses. So a negative 1 times a negative 2. Negative times negative is positive. 1 times 2 is 2. P cubed, Q cubed. This is probably the most difficult part, because then you just start to match terms. And if we look at the first one, we have P cubed, Q cubed. I'll say that 3 times. So here we're going to look all the way through and see if I see some more. This one obviously is not. P cubed, Q cubed. Yay. Remember to use the sign. So now I have a negative 1 of these, and I added 2 of these. So I have, if I put those together or add them together, I'm going to have 1 of these. Remember, when we're adding and subtracting, we don't change the exponents at all. We just match them. So
we're minusing because it's first negative 1.
you can say negative 1 plus 2 because they match.
Okay.
Or you can say 2 minus 1 because negatives and minuses work the same way. But you'll get the same answer. Okay, good question. Then, since we're through with these, we only have 1 more. We're not going to have a match. So we're going to use the sign. Using the sign in front is so awfully important. And the only difference in this, well, there's 2 differences. First of all, you won't see the ones in your answer sheet. And second of all, we need to make sure, is this in standard form? No. How do you know? Because it's a mess. Okay, So what's the degree of this term?
3.
6.
Oh, 6, that's right.
Is 6. Okay. Hi, Isabel.
Hi.
Did you get everything for last night's class?
No, ma'am.
You still didn't get it?
No, ma'am.
Oh my. He's coming in today. I'll talk to him. What is the degree of this term? Yes. Yes. 13.
Okay,
we-
so I'm
go ahead.
sorry. I'm sorry. So what's happening with these degrees here?
Okay, when we are finding the degree of a single term, which this is a term, this is a term. When we find the degree of a single term, we add all the exponents in that term.
Oh, okay, okay.
Plus 4 plus 6. The degree of this term is 13, and the degree of this is 6. And the reason we need to know that is because we list the largest degree term first.
Yes.
So to put
Okay.
it, this is a correct answer, but to put it in standard form, we need to list the largest degree first. And then the next largest degree. So this is what should show on your answer sheet. Is that correct, Sandra? Okay. Are there questions on this one? This one just looked bad because each term had a bunch of stuff in it, but it's worked the same way. Looking on page 7 again. Do y'all see anything else? Just remember, if the parentheses do not have a number out in front of the parentheses right here, it's always an invisible 1. And if it's a minus here, it's going to be a negative 1 times everything.
Okay, so you said if there's no number in front of the parentheses, it's an invisible 1.
Yes.
And then what was the second thing you said about the negative?
I said with the minus, when you put the 1 here, it becomes a negative 1 times everything in the parentheses, not just a plain positive 1.
Oh, that's just in the added. Okay.
Now I'm looking, page 8 simply gives you more terms. That's all. It gives you more terms. So you don't need to learn anything new to do this. It's just like on number 1, you're going to take the 1 times the negative 9, the 1 times the negative 5, the 1 times the negative 3. Then here you're going to take the negative invisible 1 times, I'm on page 9. 8, page 8. Here you're going to take the invisible negative 1 times negative 10, negative times negative, negative 1 more time times a negative 7. Y'all see? Do you feel comfortable enough to attack the worksheet? Or is anybody lost? Okay, but
I'm getting tied up on those plus and minuses.
uh-huh. The negatives and positives has given you trouble before, right? Okay, well, you're here in with me and I'm not going anywhere. Okay. Sandra, how do you feel? Okay. And Shaniqua, I know it's new to you. So we'll work. I would highly suggest.
I just got a little problem with the negatives and
And the
negatives.
positives?
Yeah,
That's all?
yeah, because I did this one and I got it right, but I just got it wrong because I put a negative in front of the 3.
Okay. Okay, so you found out why you did it wrong, right?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, mark that one then.
I'm
And I'll,
real used to like if it's a negative and a positive and it's negative, or if it's a negative and a negative, And Fox
That's
is-
correct. You're saying it correctly.
Oh,
So we will look at it and see where the confusion is on that,
Okay.
because what you're saying is correct. Okay. All right. Isabel, Sherry,
Yes,
how are you doing? Do you feel like you're ready to start?
yeah,
Feel like, I'm sorry.
Sort of. I'll be sending you your papers. And Isabel, did you get a copy of these worksheets when I sent them out, or have I taken you off my email?
no, I think I have them.
Okay. So what Sherry does and what some of the other remote students do, I just leave the Zoom open as
Oh,
long
okay,
to be on here so you can work some problems and ask and work. We stay on usually to about noon. Okay?
okay.
So you
Well, my
can
only
stay.
days off is Wednesday and Thursday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well, feel free until we get you all straightened up and even past then. Feel free to come in and join us anytime.
okay,
And I will
thank you.
continue to send you worksheets. You may get them duplicated whenever Clifton starts sending you ones also, okay?
Okay,
Make sure that you're not dropped.
no, I'm not. I
Okay,
just hope y'all don't drop me.
no, we won't. I know what the problem is and we'll get it worked out today. Okay.
Okay, well, thank you.
Sure, sure. Okay, well, I'm finished for today and I will be staying on.